Yeah, it's the. That's normally next week. Please. All right.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the June 21st, 2023 Duluth Community Services District regular meeting of the Board of Directors. I'm Chuck Bowman. I'll be chairing the meeting tonight in the absence of our president, Debbie Roberts. Let's stand and do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm getting a little out of order here, so we'll do the roll call next. Carol?
Here.
Sanfield Centric? Russell? Here. Roberts is absent tonight and Bowman is here. Okay, maybe we can stay back on track now. Next up, as always, is Sheriff's report. Officer first.
Good evening. This last month was kind of interesting in a sense. But first of all, it's summer again, so we've got a snake bite that occurred last week involving a juvenile, I think 10 years old. He bit, and then he's been transported to medical facility in Temecula, County. The outcome is so far positive, it's not negative, but still it's a situation regarding the route, things are out right now. So also, we had transient that was up in our area last month, pounding on a door trying to get into the house. Obviously responded, and the person was not all quite there, had no health issues, and they ended up 5150 and transported out of the area.
Now, that's a transient, that isn't the individual that we've had some issues with in the past.
Correct. Transit, it was not quite there.
Okay.
Another thing, issue is arising is, people in the lookouts, the ones already California are pretty good now and everything, the ones off another deal. There's no more fire over there or anything like what has in the past. But I did find, on Conley Court, like 5 or 6 different, locations where people are making little bonfires, cookouts, I guess. The bad part about it is that it's vacant land, there's no homes just right there. It's all dry vegetation right now. So I teamed up with the fire department, and they agreed that I'm gonna start working nights again. And I'm gonna deal with that issue, and they agreed with me that it's a restful offense. So we'll take that route in terms of for the fires that are in place out there. And they agreed to come out and more or less make sure that it's safe after everybody's taken away. Another subject, I've been to 2 HOA meetings already this last month. One of them has agreed to put on flock cameras. The flock cameras are the ones we have on Rancho Cal and Aurora. They're going to put 2 in the city of Los Gatos. So that should help us in terms of solving crime, but prefer that it deters crime. Another HOA that's the biggest one that's in central Duluth. They're interested. I just gotta check with other HOAs to see a placement of cameras if they want to put them in their areas. So if you're in an HOA, I'll probably see you in the next few weeks or so.
Are any of those that you're talking about on El Prado and Sandia Creek?
No.
Because I tried to work with another HOA to get that done. Our HOA wanted to do that, but had a real problem getting in touch with the other people. If you meet anyone with that on that area, let me know and we'll discuss that.
Because
You
quite
may
frankly,
just do
I think we've spoken to Jim in the past about this. Is basically, I want to get all the auditors into Duluth. That being Rancho California, Vista Rosa, they're the next one to talk to, actually. I want to see if they're willing to put one in the right direction out. And get the Rosa coming and going. Duluth and Geico Pastrano, which is District Wobble. And then Los Gatos is pretty much covered already. And I want to Duluth and also Caracho as it goes towards Fallbrook,
Right,
the road.
right.
And for Vista Toros also, I'm trying to get also on Camino Legal, which is Las Lulas that comes, and we'll go right there. If we get those knocked out, that basically, I kind of call it Castle Deluge. That way, hey, just know they come to our area, the plates are being read, and they're being stored. That way, any crimes occur in there, because all the big crimes that occur in our area, they're coming from Lake Elsinore area, they're coming from Paris, not within our area. So if we can knock those areas out, be a great deterrence, because I went to jail for 5.5 years, and they all talk. They all talk about how they got caught, and once they know that, they avoid those areas. So
Now, who would be paying for all of those?
the HOAs,
Individual HOAs.
Correct.
It may be an idea for the,
I know.
for us to do that.
Yeah.
And take that up. I mean, it is a safety issue, and that is part of our mission. That may be something that we want to take a look at.
The reason though that we've been working with the HOAs is because there's, if you go into the right of way, then it opens up other issues, legal issues. As a private HOA, you don't have to comply with that. But that, you know, like you speak and ticket a track running a red light, say, okay, a lot of the cities have it, and then it got struck down by
Right.
courts. So there's a lot of legal issues that it kind of opens up. And that's why the government agencies are staying away from those kind of cameras. I mean, we can continue to pursue it, but it's not as easy as if an HOA takes their camera and moves it right to the edge of the right of way line, and then it stays private. But when we move it onto our site, it's a whole other set of rules.
But you see, Jim, a lot of these things may not be on private property because they're on corners. You know
But
what I
what
mean?
we're telling them is the road right of way is 20 feet. I think you referred someone to me.
Yep.
And I said, well, just make it at 21 feet
I see.
so that it's purely, you know, a private property and not in the public way.
And the gentleman I referred to is the president of his HOA,
Right.
and in the area you were speaking of, there was quite a bit of avocado theft, and that's why that came up. And, yeah, they're gonna pursue that. It would be nice if a couple of the HOAs did it. I think the rest of them might like the idea.
well, that's what I'm pushing for.
Okay.
I'm also trying to, I don't want you guys to have a burden, I'm trying to have our department also put more out there.
Yeah.
So, they asked for a wish list a few weeks ago or a few months ago, of course.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that. When this came up, then I started doing research through you. And there's a private agency that has cameras that shares that information with your department, so that your department avoids these issues that I'm talking about. So it's not the County of Riverside's camera.
Correct.
It's Flock, that
Yes.
Flock. Flock is the front group, so that sheriff can go to them if they're tracking down a criminal act or whatever and say, could we borrow your tape from that period of time? And it changes all of the legal ramifications of the government taping people. So that, right, so then that's when I backed off, because the County of Riverside's already got this all figured out. So then, remember, we talked and I said, just work with these HOAs and have them work with Flock, or put up their own, you know, A or B, but it can't be us, just like Riverside County's not doing it either. they're using flock.
Correct. Yeah. And, it's like anything else, this is a nationwide system. So every municipality, county, state has their own rules and everything, and flock, they're everywhere. They're all over Temecula. If you go to Temecula, you're gonna see at least 5,200. So if they could go through the channels of City Temecula, Marietta, Paris, like Elsinore, and some other HOAs in the area that have them, I'm pretty sure they could get through the weeds or also.
That's a great idea.
Maybe we should look into that particular. I mean, maybe you can get me a contact.
That's what I'm trying to do. So, you guys have your next HOA event, please invite me.
Just get me the contact. Like, we don't even need to necessarily have you come to the meeting. We'll save you time.
There you go.
I'll get it, because it's the.
Yeah, your friend had, or whoever you referred to.
Yeah, he's gonna be the one.
And from your experience, folks that may have bad intents are familiar with these cameras and recognize them, and they serve as a deterrent in that form, or are there signs that advertise the fact that they're there? What's the norm for that?
Well, everybody that caught so far, and cross surprised, which is a good thing. So I don't know if they know why I'm now throughout the criminal community, I guess, but a lot of them I'm not aware of. A lot of them, quite frankly, the ones I've been dealing with, they have drug issues. And that drug issue that they have is overpowering, and they feel cautious to the wind sometimes. But the ones that are career criminals, that they understand the cameras mean, they tend to avoid them.
Okay, thank you.
What about marijuana?
We're good, we're good, nothing, no drama, thank God, this that last indoor grow, we took care of it, about 2,000 plants, that's it. So I'm happy, if anybody finds it, smells it, please contact me and I'll take care of it, still looking, next month I'm gonna fly over to Duluth again. See if I can see anything else, I kind of live the for it, I wanna find it, because I wanna piss them off. But then again, it's kind of like not finding it is a good sign that we push that out of our community. So. So I'm happy with it. Any other questions from the board?
I guess not. Thank you. We're at the point in the meeting where we would call for public comment now. If there's no comments, okay, then we'll press on. Moving to information only items, which are the financial statements and the statement of investment policy. Director, are there any questions from?
No.
Okay. And then on to the consent calendar, which is minutes of the May 17th regular meeting, the general fund claims for May, the sheriff's special tax claims for May, and there aren't any purchase orders that occurs. Directors, any comments or questions on those? Approval. And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we'll call the roll for vote for approval then. Carol?
Aye.
Sandra? Wilson?
Aye.
Roberts is not here, and Bowman votes aye. The motion is approved. Thank you. Next on to legislative topics, and we're pleased to have Cyrus Everett with us tonight, so we don't have to go to the TV and get a chance to meet him in person.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I don't like being on the TV. You know, you like So, quick recap on the process we're going through from the legislature. There's policy committee. The bill survived that. It goes to the fiscal committee. If you recall, that's where Cal Recycle took its first gold shot at the bill and Senate appropriations. Give a wildly exaggerated cost, which was partially successful. We got put on thing called the suspense file, which is a place you don't want to be. It's a special file for expensive bills. We survived. So basically the pattern is they're not fighting us on the policy. They're looking for collateral ways to attack the bill. So we are in policy committee now in the other house on Monday. And this consultant is someone I've known for, friends, but she's been in the building for a long time. She's extremely knowledgeable, and she went right to work on the bill. She actually improved some things that got done to the Senate. So the bill is in great shape. Expecting no issues on Monday. However, then we come to probably the most serious challenge in Assembly, which will be in the legislature, which will be the Assembly Appropriations Committee, where it's going to go through that same drill. Only this time in the Senate, we had Senator Siarto, who sat on the Senate Appropriations Committee and got a private meeting with the chair, prioritized this bill. So, used his leverage in the Senate. He's now a senator over in the Assembly, so doesn't quite have the same, access. I mean, luckily, the chair of the Appropriations Committee is a wonderful guy, Chris Holden, former, he used to chair the League of Cities, so he gets it. He's been in local government his whole life. So don't look for him to pull the wool over his eyes. Nonetheless, I'm sure they'll try. So after that, we go to the floor, and again, they don't have an argument, to oppose this bill. It's on the policy. So I anticipate no trouble on the Assembly floor. Comes back to the Senate, the amendments get voted on one time, and then off it goes to the governor. And that's when they're gonna, I suspect, they will really unload, because they get to do a report that goes directly to the governor and staff called the enrolled bill report. Essentially, they get the last word. State agencies, when I have a bill affects their jurisdiction, they have the last word with their report to staff and governor. So those are in great shape now. We've got two more big hurdles, but at this time, we are working with a great consultant, and I think we're not gonna get everything he wants, but he's gonna be happy with the product, that comes out of it. So.
Harris, can you give us a brief overview of the mechanization of what the bill does?
Sure. So when the original organic waste diversion separation collection program was enacted, when they did the regulations, they created an exemption for small and rural areas. So you guys were covered because you didn't report to the disposal response system in 2014. You were also in the same census tract with Temecula, so you were kind of like cut out of two different technicalities. The bill currently says if you disposed of less than 5,000 tons in 2014, you may apply for the exemption. That's the current bill. The Assembly consultant rolled in and said, "No, we're not going to do that." You said shall qualify. If you disposed of less than 5,000 tons, or is qualified for the exemption. So, in terms of the mechanics of it, it's simply going to legislatively confer the same exemption onto a special district that you would have gotten had you qualified originally. Now, unfortunately, it brings up the issue we're not happy with, which is it has a sunset. And in other words, they don't fix it before 2027. You're gonna have to do this again. But we expect they'll fix it. But the reason for that is had you even gotten the original exemption, it still had a reapplication date. So you still would have had to reapply. So the consultants in the legislature rightly didn't want a statute that could hang around forever, which may go ignored. So they basically they put you in as, if this works, they will put you in as good a position as you would have been had you got that exemption. But then you got to reapply or something's got to get fixed. At the same time, everyone else is going to have to reapply anyway.
I tried to read through it and from a very shallow understanding of what was going on. And it appeared that there was a change to the 2014 baseline that was established, and the change being that it allowed a current submittal of that information, of that baseline data, as opposed to having submitted in 2014, which wasn't done for the district, as I understand. It was done
Okay.
by the county and as a broad brush or a broader brush approach. Is that important to the nature of the way this is implemented, or?
Two schools of thought on that. One, yes, it's important because things can change over time. So all you have to do is show that one time you disposed of less than 5,000 tons, and that's it, you're qualified. Things can, actually, this came up. We have another client. In 2014, as luck would have it, they had to do a road project. That 1 year, they disposed of 7,000 tons. 1 year in 2014, no other year. Wow. Guess what? So, yeah, so there's an advantage to, assuming you qualify, just having to show I qualified that one time. And that way there's not you don't have to worry about what might happen in the future to disqualify.
Right. And I understand, Jim, that the CRNR has the data actually from the district,
We do.
so that's available to us.
Right, and I believe you're using that.
Yes.
So CRNR reported to the county, because at that time, the law said that the counties reported cities and counties.
Mhm.
And so we were totally, or CRNR and us were compliant, CRNR took the information from there. It was easy for them because we are a client of theirs, right? So they keep all their records by the
Mhm.
district. And then at that time, they complied with the law. They gave that information to the county and the county reported it. Then they came back a couple of years ago and said, well, you actually didn't comply because you, the district, didn't send it in. Well, we didn't know what the law was gonna be at that time, and that's why it was done that way. So I think we're kind of over that one now. I haven't heard that lately.
yeah.
But one thing, if you could explain a little bit, here's the way I understand it. Okay, it goes to the policy committee, and the people on the policy committee in the Senate thought, yeah, that's a rip to the small Duluth, whatever, passed it on. Then it goes to the fiscal committee, and then this is where it started getting kind of weird. You had to explain it to me a couple times.
Mhm.
Maybe you can explain it to them. The state agencies in that process have to say, what is this gonna cost us if the legislature enacts it?
Yeah.
Tell them what they said,
Okay.
the cost was gonna be. That's in the Senate. We gotta do this again in the Assembly, right?
Yeah, we do. So they recycle a pint that would take $171,000 to redo their regs, and they would need an additional person. Ongoing. So this was one application that you have to look at every, 4 years or whatever it is,
Right.
which would take about 5 minutes to say, yes, you comply. No, they do the rest of the 4.9 years that they're employed until it comes up again. But yeah, I mean, it's just a wildly exaggerated cost. They don't have to redo regs, mind you. Because the regs don't even say that you reported tonnage directly by you into the disposal reporting system, DRS. It just says reported. Your numbers were reported in the correct format, but just in aggregate by Riverside County. And we can disaggregate that. So if you could read the regs to require no change to accept, but, one particular attorney inside the agency decided to make a fight out of it. So here we are. But, yeah,
The cost to our bill was $171,000 a year.
no, 171,000 one time to redo the regs and an additional person.
And how much was that? You gave me a number. How much was that person gonna cost?
Well, I mean, because remember, it's withholdings, it's benefits, so.
But
yeah,
they had a number.
Yeah, it's like 200,
200,
and I forgot the exact number, it was over 200,000.
just to oversee our expenses.
Yeah.
What that tells me is that agency has too many employees
Mhm.
and doesn't have enough work.
Well, it didn't work. It was kind of laughed right out of the room. But if I don't have any real anxiety, we're gonna win this.
Yeah.
But it's just that, we have a senator who's now got to talk to assembly members. All kind of things can happen, fights can break out, not.
Our confidence is high even through the government. Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone have any further questions?
What about the gas tax?
He doesn't know about it.
Well, I know that.
I mean.
Yeah. That's it. I'm at your service if you wish.
We're waiting to see,
Oh, I did.
so far, so good.
Okay.
One thing is, I did lose a bill at the governor's, we get a Republican governor vetoed the Republican city's bill, unbelievable. But there any spade work that we could be doing right now, in preparation? I saw kind of, so we got our bill through.
Mhm.
And we're patting each other on the back, kind of lobbyists, thinking how great we are, right? And who would have thought that the governor, and what it was that our senator had run in the primary against the governor.
Oh.
Go figure, okay? So he was sending a message back and, but we could have thought of that before. So while we're, patting ourselves on the back, we should have been up there at the governor's office. Because there were people that we could have lobbied, because I met them after the fact,
Mhm.
right? The guys that write those reports, I can't remember their job titles, but.
Deputies, legislative deputies.
Right. And, when one had written a blistering report about this was such an unnecessary bill and all that, then when the governor saw who the author was, well, show those guys. That all could have been prevented. So I'm having flashbacks that maybe now, since we know they could be a problem, just think about it, I think.
Oh, no, there's lots of state work to do before you enter your bill, but not right now.
Okay,
Yeah, right now, they're so balled up with
Yeah.
the raft of bills that they have to get through by, session is September 15th. And everyone just has to take a breath for about 2 weeks. So, yeah, anytime anybody talks to me about sponsoring a bill, which, you guys are right under the wire on this one, but I like the first week of October to start,
for the next session,
working the next
which
session.
should be gas tax.
So you guys brought me on right at the end of October last year. We did our work. And remember, we had a setback. So that you start early because you can run into setback. Remember, I started with the consultant and then she went and took another job.
That's right.
Yeah, so we had this grease and this consultant up and takes a really cool job in another committee. And then we get a brand new consultant who came out of Cal Recycle. So this was, she was good. She's very knowledgeable, worked with us, but if you recall, board was pressing me on amendments. I said, here, let's go to the assembly where I happen to know there's this consultant who's been at this for decades. Let's put ourselves in her hands. So you have setbacks, you have unexpected things happen. So the earlier you start. There are no further questions? And it was a pleasure to be here. So have you.
We appreciate it, Cyrus, and hope to see you back here again. Okay, our next item is the consideration by the board of notice for an exemption, providing a environmental impact report for the work that is a part of our 23-24 fiscal year 23-24 budget. Board, I think you got the details on this, is that right?
This is on G.
Yes, yes.
Just to go ahead, no, it's kind of surprised, I'm sorry.
Mention that to you.
Okay.
Anyway, it's just a standard, action that you take because you are, approving a few $1 million to be spent in the coming year. And, that we're declaring before you take that action, that this does not require environmental impact report over any other action under CEQA. And so, the motion would be to, approve the notice of exemption for the fiscal year 23-24 budget revenue.
Okay. So moved. Do we have a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Representing comments, questions? Okay, I'll call for the roll for the vote to approve then. Carol?
Aye.
Alessandra?
Aye.
Rawson?
Aye.
Roberts, of course, is absent, and Bowman votes aye. So the motion is approved. Thank you. Moving on to item 8. This is the public hearing and second reading of ordinance 23-01, which is the adoption of the sheriff's special tax rate and the written report for fiscal year 2023-2024. Jim, can you provide us any comments you think are appropriate and the wording?
This is the standard, sheriff tax rate enacted by the people in 1998. And also the benefit assessments that we've been putting on the tax bill to the owners within the district for the road benefit assessment essentially. That's been frozen by Prop 218. So you see this over and over year after year. So there's really nothing is changing. So now would be the time to conduct a public hearing and consider introducing ordinance number 2301 by title only, the further reading be waived, and that ordinance number 2301 be adopted.
And I move the motion as stated be approved. Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second.
We'll now open the public hearing for ordinance number 2301. If there's anyone here who has a comment, I presume, probably not, but is there anyone online? Seeing no comments, we'll then close the public hearing. And directors, do you have any comments or questions? No. And then we'll move on to the roll call for the vote. This will be a vote to approve. Carol?
Aye.
Bill Sandry?
Aye.
Rossing?
Aye.
Roberts, again, absent, and Bowman votes aye. So that motion is approved. Thank you. Next item I on our agenda is a similar public hearing of resolution number 2307, which provides for the district's fiscal year 23-24 budget. Jim, once again, can you give us any comments you think are appropriate? Yeah,
You reviewed the budget at the draft budget at your prior meeting. So at this time, it would be appropriate to have a motion to approve that budget and open a public hearing. If there's public comment, you can have their comment, then board debate, and then taking action. So the appropriate motion at this time, and there is a change in the numbering, which is minor, but the change is it's not 2307 resolution, it's going to be 2311. We got our numbering out of order. So the appropriate motion would be to introduce resolution 2311 by title only, a further reading be waived, and that resolution number 2311 be adopted.
I'll move that the motion as stated be approved, and is there a second?
I'll second.
And so this would be the time then to open the public hearing on that. Having no one in attendance, there's no one online. So we'll move on and close the public hearing on resolution 23-11. Records, any other questions or comments on the motion?
No.
We'll do a roll call vote then for approval. Carol?
Aye.
Bill Sanders? Aye. Rawson?
Aye.
Roberts again absent, and Bowman votes aye. So we have a unanimous approval again. Thank you. All right, item J on the agenda is stated as resolution 2308. Is this still appropriate?
Is that correct? Is that what is correct?
Yes.
And this is the election. I'm sorry.
We use that word electing, but this has to do with.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It is, yes.
That's coming up.
Yes, okay, this is actually the collection of the fees for the district for the budget and a motion to have the county of Riverside collect those for us as a part of the tax roll. Is that correct? Okay, can you give us any comments?
So the, essentially the item under H, the benefit fees for the roads and the sheriff tax that the voters enacted years ago. At that point, you reinstitute them for the next fiscal year. And this authorizes the Riverside County tax collector to put these charges on their bill, collect the money for us, and send the money and fund our budget. So to do all that, it's contained in Resolution 2308, which should be introduced by title only, the further reading be waived, and resolution number 2308 be adopted. This does not take a public hearing, formal public hearing, yet you always ask for comment on every item anytime. So, so that would be the appropriate motion.
All right, I'll move that the motion as stated be approved. Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Thank you, directors. Any questions or comments?
No.
All right, then we'll move on to the roll call vote for
We
that.
need to have public, just note that there's no one wishing to speak.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought there was not a need for a public hearing on this.
Yeah, but we
So
still
we-
let them speak.
All right, we will open for public comment. Having no one here or online wishing to comment, then the public hearing will be closed. And we'll move on to the roll call vote. Carol,
Aye.
Sandra, Rosa,
Aye.
and Bolton votes aye, and the motion is unanimously approved. Thank you. All right, now we're at the election item K. And that will be resolution 2309. And Jim, can you give us just a quick outline of what we're dealing with here?
Okay, every 2 years, there is an election for its director for the Duluth Community Services District. And this cycle, there are 2 seats up for election in November. And the general election in November is on November 7th. Those 2 seats currently are occupied by Director De La Sandri and Director Roberts. So those seats will be on the ballot. And there is a calendar which isn't in your package here, but it sets forth the dates in which electors, being registered voters, may put their name in contention for those seats. And there's an ending date, and that's going to be July, and I believe it ends in August. Anybody know the exact dates? We have a calendar which we'll send out to everyone. Since there are 2 incumbents in the seats at the present time, if one of them does not file by the ending date, the filing period moves forward 5 more days. So, and that came about, I remember when this started.
But
People were-
that only occurs if there's no one else applying for that position. In other words, if there are 3 outsiders and neither Debbie or I apply, they go on with the election.
Correct, yeah, right. But that started, there were some games being played back in the 60s, 70s, where they would say, I'm running, and then at the last minute, they don't put in their papers, so that their friend was the only guy who had the paper there. That, I don't remember what, it was kind of a corrupt thing. Anyway, but that gets confusing sometimes. People don't understand, well, why is that? So if the 2 incumbents file, the deadline is the deadline. But if 1 does not, or 2 doesn't do that, it will extend 5 days. So anyway, that's essentially the election for this year. But you as the governing body have to officially call the election, which is what is in resolution 2309. We're also proposing, and it's before you, the notice to the register of voters that we are going to publish the notice, which they do for us, in the Press Enterprise newspaper. And that the candidate statement will be 200 words, and that the candidate statement are paid by the people who put in a candidate statement. So they don't know until the end, they'll take a deposit when you file your papers. They don't know what the printing cost is gonna be among all the candidates countywide. But they'll estimate it, it's usually a couple $100, $300. And then, they'll refund your, comes in less, so at the end of the election, they refund it back. Other than that, the election is run by the county. They have all their county rules, but, adoption of this resolution 2309 sets a process in motion and gives public notice that these two seats will be on the ballot on November 7th. So the appropriate motion would be introduce resolution 2309 by title only. The further reading be waived and that resolution number 2309 be adopted.
And, okay, so moved. Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second.
As a matter of comment or question, I believe that anyone interested would be able to contact the office here at the district or the county
Registrar.
registrar's office and get further information on that.
We can give out the materials. So if you were interested in being a candidate, we're able to provide all those materials here. Though we cannot accept them for filing, so that has to go, you have to make the drive down to Riverside to actually file, but you don't have to go twice, you get all the papers here.
Directors, are there any other questions or comments? All right, we'll call roll for a vote then to approve. Carol?
Aye.
Bill Sanders? Wilson?
Oh,
And Bowman votes aye. So once again, the motion is unanimously approved. Thank you. And moving on then to item L, is resolution 23-10, which is the approval of a memorandum of understanding between the district and the District Employees Association. And I think, Robert, you have some details on that.
Yes, actually, you have in front of you Exhibit A, which is essentially the memorandum of understanding that both the employees and we agreed upon at our meeting. We had several meetings. The employees presented some suggestions. We thought they were actually very good. Thought that they did a great job in terms of coming forward with their suggestions. One of them in Exhibit A, number 1, was a tuition assistance program. And we thought this would not only enhance their career prospects, but also enhance the ability of the district to do more and accomplish more. So we suggested that the assistance program reimburse up to 75% of the cost of tuition. It has to be approved by the director, the general manager, and that was agreed upon. Employees also requested having an additional day, Martin Luther King Day, and as a paid holiday. And we also agreed to that, thought that was appropriate. We also looked at the allocation or the amount provided for use of personal cell phone. I can tell you personally that I went to the Verizon the other day, and the costs have gone up substantially. So we also agreed that $75 per month cell phone allowance was appropriate. And we also agreed that these terms would be reviewed every 3 years. And the employees also agreed to that. I think those were the extent of the discussion. Was there anything else, Jim? I don't recall anything else. We had that discussion with the employee representatives. I believe they concurred. And so we have this resolution before you. We ask the board to adopt.
Do you have a recommendation for the statement of the motion?
Yeah, it would be to introduce resolution number 2310. By title only, the further reading be waived as resolution 2310.
Very good. Is there a motion?
That's good.
And a second?
Yes, I'll second.
All right, Director, is there any other questions? My only comment is, given the quality of service of cell phones in Duluth, I would think it would be for that. All right, we'll call the roll then for motion, for the vote to approve the motion. Harold?
Aye.
Bosan? Aye. Rawson?
Aye.
And Bowman votes aye. So once again, a unanimous vote to approve. Thank you. And we're now ready for item M, which is the culvert inspection project report.
Yes, so, thank you, Chuck. So I think, over the last few months, we've, discussed some of the, culvert inspections that TJ and his crew have been working diligently on out there. And during that process, they identified about, 14 storm drains scattered on, 11 sites, basically, that were in need of, a higher tier of repair, basically. It's something that, that may need to be, need to go out to a contractor, similar to the past work we've done for the FEMA, the 57 location projects. And you can see in front of you, we have these plans right here. This is again, they're very similar. These are like emergency repair plans. Obviously a lot less detailed than Sandia Creek and Buena Vista type project. This is basically to get as many lumped into one project so we can get the better prices of what's out there right now, basically, for these emergency repairs. So I think, I don't want to go too in detail. All the locations are in the map right here, the plans, the index map, but these are all the ones that we did in the past recommend for repairs in the past inspection reports that have been shared. And then we also read the plans during the committee meeting and so basically, right now, I think the price right now is looking at, the estimate is gonna be around 360K. But, so just before anyone gets alarmed, but we talked through a process of, maybe cutting that cost down, potentially a way to bid the project where we separated out. We identified some of the projects that with, Raj, our inspector on Buena Vista, being available to help out TJ and his crew. We identified some that could be used as not only a training opportunity, but also potential cost savings if the prices maybe come in too high. But we also discussed that it may be best to at least get the prices first, the bid prices, and then if it came in low or came in where we were expecting, we can either go ahead with that or we can take that cost out. So the specifications will be separated out to easily, if you wanted to pull these 3 projects out and have TJ and his crew go out there with Raj and do it, we still have that option, but this gives us the most flexibility on what we can do. And it's hard to make a decision when you just have an estimate. So that's why we want to go out and get the actual bid price and see where prices are. Prices have been high in the past. I'm not going to say that they've gone down, but I will say that it has kind of plateaued. Prices generally are always going to go up, but that we were recently in a spike, just a recent spike due to the pandemic and everything. So the prices, they're back to a normal rise right now. But basically, the plans are in front of you, and I guess the recommendations are to approve these bid documents for this 2023 National Pavement Project, and then next step would be to authorize the board of directors to allow this project to go out to bid and accept bids for the project. I think, open up to any questions that anyone may have, or.
So the engineering committee reviewed these and approved this.
We have reviewed these and feel like they meet the criteria of the budget and the work to be done this year. We're hopeful that, as last year, there'll be some advantages from the combination of work that will allow us to do a little bit more. All of this fits within the budget. Is that right, Rob?
It fits within the budget. Basically, I know the budget is just got adopted, I guess, but yes, everything fits within the rolling budget. And again, we still have that flexibility if prices come in at a different rate. The district reserves the right to pull any project, basically.
Some of these culverts are really bad.
Yeah, they do.
There are some in bad shape, and that's unfortunately the state of CMP pipes that have been on the ground for 50 to 70 years maybe, and so.
We actually got some benefit from the heavy rains this past year and clearing some of it.
Yeah, it's actually gone out of it, the pipe was actually conveying sediment, it was actually a lot, but no, these are the ones, are the worst cases, and obviously the pictures we show are the worst case, So, but under the roadway, sometimes they're good, a lot of this is, the end treatments get, because they're exposed to all the elements.
Sure.
They get away.
The good news is having cleared them out and having Roger was working with the team, we were able to identify these. And there are enough of them at a need high enough that this really dominates the work this year. Sure. Good. So,
You need a motion.
Jim, can you,
Just a motion to,
can we have a motion to approve?
is there?
Yeah, so it's to approve the plans and authorize the bid.
Yes, that motion.
So moved.
In a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Very good. Let's move on to a roll call then for a vote to approve. Carol?
Aye.
Alessandra? Rawson?
Aye.
And Bowman votes aye. So we have a unanimous. Thank you. Okay, then, next is Buena Vista. We were seeing some motion there now.
Yes, Dr. Green again. So basically, last time we met with the committee, the contractor has agreed to, uphold the temporary suspension. We've seen a lot less rain. I mean, there was still one rain that happened between the time and forth, but you're never gonna get it perfect. There's never gonna be no water as a perennial stream. So they did remobilize, they went out Thursday to assess the sites and they started building their diversion bypass. Rod has been back out there and he's inspecting the crew, and Jason Brown has been sending his daily reports. So they are remobilizing. Right now, they're not expecting anything out of the ordinary. I know that, with the heavy rains we have received, there's the potential of, extra sediment washing out, and maybe the hole's a little bigger. But there is an allowance, as long as we stay within 25% of the quantities, that unit price is the same. We won't know anything exactly until they start counting up truck tickets and seeing how much dirt is being in there. But, I'm talking to the contractor, they're not expecting anything too over the ordinary of what was, bid basically. So, right now, we just have to, but we are moving full speed ahead. As far as, timeline, they're hoping, I think, originally they're hoping within 3 weeks they'll have the diversion in and the actual channel, the pipe bedding in and the pipes down, which that's the most critical moment. Once that's there, everything's functional. And they were looking at a timeline, according to the working day statement, the contract is set to end around, mid to late July. That's if every working day goes perfectly as planned. And I think we're done with the rain, I can never say so, but, so I would say definitely I would expect this project to be done around, the latest at August. But we're expecting around mid to late July. We'll finally put this one off and maybe get it off of, our packets here soon. It'll be a good day.
It will. But we've been fortunate that things have been stabilized over the period of heavy rain.
Yes.
This last year, it could have been very disastrous.
They were maintaining their stormwater BMPs. They were sending, Jason was on their case to send us weekly updates of all their best management out there to make sure erosion wasn't happening.
What was the cost to us of the delay in the rains? I mean, that's additional above and beyond the cost of the project. Is that correct?
As of right now, there's no cost associated with it. The only potential cost is, what I, briefly mentioned before, is if it did, when we do the earthwork, we based it on a survey that was done at the design of the project. You've seen the amount of rain we've had, so if it did wash out an excessive amount, there's a potential for them to ask for more money in earthwork. We assume a cubic yard of earthwork, based on the survey we had. But
The
that's.
project costs, assuming that things go well, are going to be the same as projected.
Correct, yes. There was no increase in prices. They already have all their storm drain on site, which that's really the biggest item that may have gone up in prices. I talked to, one other item was, sometimes the stock, if you don't use your stockpile to a certain amount of time, someone else comes in and buy it. But, it looks like their stockpile is still secure, and they said they can get the dirt moving as early as, the first week of July, which is in the timeline. So as of now, there is no cost, and the only potential is if there is additional earthwork required.
What about other costs, ancillary to this.
Ancillary, yeah, you're right. The contractor, Jason Brown has been holding their feet to the fire. There hasn't been any increases in their cost.
Yeah.
However, by this moving on and on and on, we're still got Jason Brown, we still got Rod. So there is, and some of this came up in finance, and I didn't see you before this to tell you. So yeah, there, it is gonna be higher because it's dragging out, like, you know, so those kind of drag out costs.
So on the other side of that, we've been able to, take advantage of having those people and going through the training and through that, reduced many of the costs that we would have.
That's true. In the long run, you know, the garage cost is actually being applied to repairs that we would have to do. We'd have to contract that.
That would have been contracted out at a higher
So all
cost.
in all, I think it evens out. There are costs and every month that, you know, it drags on, there are some additional.
And just, I guess, remind you, not remind, but, during one of the benefits of us at least starting a Buena Vista job at the same time as a Slurry job, is we were able to split time with Rod at that point. So that was a bit of a cost savings at that point where he took 2.5 and half on the job. And, again, as Chuck was saying, he has been helping TJ and his crew, which that's the value that could last district for as long as we're here. So I think that's definitely, it's not, I wouldn't call it a complete sunk cost, but, yes, Jim, thank you for, ancillary costs.
Okay.
It
Any,
would, just one other comment, it would be, I think, a good idea to split that out in terms of not so much, but just in terms of knowing that. So you assign the cost of Buena Vista that should be assigned to it. So we get a real understanding of what the cost of that project is. And then by looking at that, get to understand what the cost of rain delays may be. And that may be something that would be, in the future, we could look at that in terms of a project that starts in the rainy season and maybe say, maybe we want to wait until after the rainy season and not take the chance of having to spend $300,000 extra on this project because it gets delayed.
That's very easy for us to break out. I can look at basically the date suspension started and the date the suspension ended and see how much of our CM team's time, my time, we had it as a separate project. And Teresa had seen the invoices, so I could easily break that out and get you a cost of what exact costs have gone during that suspension time.
I think we've been fortunate this past year that there wasn't any significant, increases, at least so far, we haven't seen any. And looking back, had the site not been prepared and then secured, the likelihood of the heavy rain of doing more damage and creating a higher cost project in the end seemed very likely. So it's very difficult to look at advantage and disadvantage and make a balance because, of course, you only know one side of it. That's what happened. You don't know the side that didn't happen.
And one good thing, I guess you could say, is because the contractor is mobilized on that site, they're responsible for it. So if something did happen, it would be on our maintenance crew to go out there and fix anything that would have happened there. That I guess is another.
And in fact, they did that a couple of times, right?
What's that?
They actually did that a couple of times, right?
Oh, yeah, they went out there once a week and just, maintained, because we would be it would be in much worse shape right now if we didn't have those erosion control teams.
Okay, thank you. And Robert, I think there's going to be some information coming up here on one of the other topics that may add a little bit to that advantage that we have from having Raj and somebody training going on.
It's already there. It's if you.
So, our traffic engineer, Mr. Steve Cleveland, you're on.
It's me. So, just update everybody, we, staff is going to be picking up today or tomorrow, probably tomorrow, the new signs that we have that will be going up on the entrances. Our next step will be working with, the county to get the encroachment permit to put the 3 of the 4 signs in their property and stuff like that. We also asked the county to fix this water leak. Next slide. They fixed the water leak, but there's still a big old problem out there, so we're asking them, want to do that too. And then on Los Gatos, we're still looking into options on those Gatos. We need to talk to fire and CHP about what things they might have concerns with and stuff, and then we'll evaluate the advantages and disadvantages forward. One of the things that we did during this time was kind of on a quarterly basis, we'll go out and take a look at all these items and kind of get a big giant one day picture of everything that's happening and what we have. Staff, TJ and Jessica and I have all started working on, resolving some of these things already. So that's our report for the night for traffic.
Any, questions or comments from the board? All right, thank you.
Okay, so the next time was, we also discussed at the last committee meeting about the possibility of purchasing equipment to take the skid steer on. So just as an example, this is an approximate price that we were able to obtain some months back for a used vehicle. Next slide. This is the price that we obtained for a brand new vehicle with all the warranties and everything like that, no mileage on it. Next slide. What we did was we did a brief little summary for the committee and said, look, here's some of the things that we would save money on if we purchase this. And here's a few things that would cost a little bit more money, of course, having an extra vehicle. And next slide. When you sum up all those things out, it came out to about $86,000 for an annual savings. So if a $100,000 truck is purchased, then you see the payback is a little over a year. And of course, that kind of savings over the course of 12 years would give you a pretty substantial amount of funds there. So,
That's just part of the impact from having Raj working with a team and being able to do these repairs, that we need this equipment to help enhance.
exactly. And that's the biggest savings that we get.
Right.
And the pictures that in-house staff is able to do the work, these small jobs that the contractor does for a much, much higher price. So the other part of it we're looking at too is that we're starting to accumulate quite a few pieces of equipment that are not really useful anymore. And so we can also pursue a few ways, start looking at dumping a few of these things off and get whatever salvage value we can to help the program. So, final slide.
And we did that, in fact, with the skid steer, that we now have a very highly used piece of equipment where we previously had a great piece of equipment that sat in the yard most of the time, right?
Tonight, we're asking for approval of the concept of purchasing vehicle. It is in the budget, and the engineering committee, Chuck, you go ahead and give your recommendation.
I'm sorry, say how?
I said, and you can give them your recommendation on commission.
Yes, I was going to bring that up in the committee reports, but we'll go ahead with it here. The engineering committee looked at what has been presented here and have been looking at this for a few months now. And we seem to be getting a lot of benefit from having the additional equipment. We started with a skid steer. The training and the expertise that's been developed by the crew has allowed us to do more work, but we're still hampered by having a subcontractor come out to bring his truck to move our skid steer where it needs to go, because our equipment isn't heavy enough to do that. And in addition, the crew has to go down to rent equipment and pick up, for instance, material at various sites for repair. In lieu of renting that, we can use both the time that they would spend going to get that, as well as the saving on the rental to apply to the value of having the truck. So as a committee, we'd like to recommend that we do that the board give a not to exceed approval for acquisition of a truck, either used or new, giving staff the ability to negotiate with a not to exceed amount of $110,000, which would include not only the cost of the truck, but also any taxes, licenses, anything else associated with that. That still leaves us with an amount in the budget for some small tools like a roller that we feel like we need for some of the small asphalt repairs. So we'd like to make a recommendation, I guess we'd like to make the motion to the committee that, to the full board, that we approve a not to exceed amount of $110,000 for staff to purchase that truck. So I'll make that motion. Do we have a second?
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay, let's have the full vote then to approve. Carol?
Aye.
Alexander? Rawson?
Aye.
And Bowman votes aye. So we'll be able to go ahead with that and should see the savings coming up within this year. Thank you very much. Okay, do you have anything else, Steve?
No, that's it.
Thank you. All right, we're at the committee reports, and the first is engineering committee, we will meet on June the 14th. We reviewed. Oh, I'm sorry, I got right past the field report. I guess you're just moving so fast, TJ. Yeah. Looking back at what an older employer of mine told me once, when you get what you want, shut up and leave. Right. I guess I assume you want to do that.
They're with the truck.
All right, so we're on via Cielo, and you can see Canyon Hotel stop sign there. So we went ahead and trimmed that back, so that way the drivers coming down that way can see that there's a stop sign there. Weed whacking, as you know, there's a forest growing on up there. So we're doing our best we can to maintain that. As you know, we're also working on garage. So about half the day, the first half of the day, the crew, we go out and handle as much as we need to camp before we go ahead and meet with garage. The roads we've taken care of, via Caro, Broncho, via Santa Rosa, and Avenue Del Oro. We're still making our way around to the other roads as well, so. Next slide, please. This one day was actually a surprise to us. It wasn't called out at all. This was just during one of our driving around as we're going to our next task, and we just pulled up on this, and then we were just like, hey, we might as well get this out of the way, so that way people can get back to their regular duties and get through the road. So we went ahead and trimmed it up and got it out of the road. Los Casitas, this road didn't have any RPMs at all. So we went ahead and glued those down to basically match all our other roads and look the same. Slide. And lastly, we had a truck accident crash on Los Gatos around 10 a.m. I believe. It was a dump truck carrying asphalt. He was coming from Corona, trying to get to Fallbrook, and his GPS directed him to go that way. He saw our signs and chose to go ahead and send it, I guess, and not obey it.
One we heard about last,
Yeah,
that's not another one.
yeah, this was the last, during the last board meeting, we couldn't make it due to this. Next slide, please. So this is the record truck picking it up. It took them a while. It took them all the way until like 6:30. We didn't get off of Los Gatos till like 6:30. They were having some troubles trying to get it back standing and not on its side. Next slide, please.
Did you get some repavement?
No, I was all dried up. There was no warmth to it at all. But this is us cleaning it up here. We had a hazmat come out and clean up that oil spill. You can see that white powdery stuff on the last slide there.
So we'll get reimbursed for that, right?
Insurance, yeah, we'll file a claim.
Our insurance or they?
We'll file a claim like it's a car wreck.
Right, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
That's it for me. If you guys have any questions.
Any questions? TJ, thanks.
All right, thank you.
Very good. And now we'll move on to those committee reports. Engineering Committee, as I said, met on June the 14th. And both Director Rawson and I were there. Were present. And we heard essentially the same thing you've heard tonight. So we won't go back through that again. And the decision to present to the board the purchase of the truck occurred there, and we've gone through that. So there's nothing further for me to provide on that. So let's move on to the Finance Committee.
We met yesterday, and perhaps the most important thing we talked about was the T-bill that is proceeding. And that could or should happen this week with Chase. We transferred some money from Banner,
It's in-
600,000.
Excuse me for it, I got an update that you don't know about. All our paperwork was perfect. He said he's gonna file it and it should be done deal on Friday.
The percentage is 5.
5.16.
Very good. Why is it 519? Anyway, 516 is actually, obviously quite good. If you look at the LAIF, it's about 2.6 and 2.7, so this is just about twice as much as that. We also, in the process, learned that Banner has a product that maybe Chase also has, which has more liquidity associated with it. So we may be able, long run, have another instrument where we can put quite a lot of money and still maintain the liquidity that we need. We're going to be looking into that as well. You can see the late, I think it's in there. Let's see it. Anyway, late is about 2.7%, and that's obviously up from 0.3%. So even that's doing better than it has in the past. So that's the major items we discussed in the finance.
Anyone have any questions for Finance?
I just want to point out that we did question, I asked what the skid steer tow was. I thought maybe it had broken down. That was just of $1,100, and that's what it cost to have that piece of equipment moved. And by having our own truck, we'll be saving on that expense. So that's why it's important to have that truck.
It is. I think as we move forward, we're going to find more and more advantages to having capable of doing any of these, what would have been subcontracted jobs. Okay, the next is the legislative report. Anything on that, Jim?
We're waiting on word back from the state controller. The committee requested our special attorney, Ryan Barrett, to communicate with the controller's office direct. You may recall that the county had written a letter because they wanted the state controller to bless what we were proposing. And we got not a negative response, but kind of a vanilla 0, no recommendation response back. So they prepared a detailed question and answer kind of letter so that they could say yes or no. And we're waiting back on it. I did talk to Ryan this week, and he's gonna, we haven't gotten a response, so he's going to call that person that we wrote the letter to within the controller's office and see if he can help them respond. Because this isn't something that they even know about, most likely, when we were talking about it Monday. Poor guy's got this on his desk, and he's like, what are these people talking about gas tax? You know, it's just not something potentially that comes up very often. So maybe we could suggest to Ryan, give him help. We'll see. It's a long shot, but other than that, there hasn't been a legislative committee this month, but I expect there will be. So okay, that's just a response on where the committee is.
Any questions on Okay, moving on to the general manager's report.
Okay, a few things. One is, along the lines of budget, I do this every year. We have a franchise with CRR, for waste pickup. And in the franchise, they receive a CPI, which means you customers get a CPI increase. So, we can't approve or disapprove their increase. I mean, that was big part of the franchise. But they do write a letter once a year before this actually goes on the bills, indicating, so you know what the increase this year is. And the CPI, which is based on February month, came out 5.1%. So I'm sorry, but your tax rates are going up 5.1%. So everybody knows, so that's the extent of what we can do about it. But we do this every year. And so that's the annual report on cost.
But the good news is if Cyrus gets his job done, we won't double
That's right. It's not, you're right. It would be about double. So
it would have been very close.
the next item, TJ, anything changed in your division of significance? We missing any employees? Haven't been to work in a few days? Anything significant stand up?
Yeah, our employee Wyatt, he's having a baby, so he's taking a dad leave, but he should be back, next week.
So do tell her, the baby was born, right?
Yeah, Thursday, yeah, last week.
And what do we know about this baby?
Raiden is his name.
Raiden?
Raiden,
Raiden.
yeah, like, was born at 8:30 at night and 7 pounds, 8 ounces, something like that. Other than that, looks like a pretty good kid, full head, got a lot of hair. So, I haven't met him yet, but other than that, that's all I can tell you.
Please send congratulations from the board.
All right,
And that's number 2 for him, right?
number 2 for me, yes, son.
And you've got one
I have one daughter.
daughter, and you're
You have
still.
none.
You're still looking to get married. So be sure and tell them,
Yeah,
congratulations.
We'll do.
we're gonna have a nice little surprise on his desk when he.
Okay, sounds good. I won't talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glad to hear it.
This year, we have the 4th of July on a Tuesday, which makes for an odd Monday in between the weekend and the holiday. So unless somebody starts throwing rocks at me, here's what I propose to do, because I suspect it's gonna be one of those days for focus. So, we learned this in the pandemic, with the proposals. We're gonna be working from home. And they will have a number call, we'll check the messages and all that. But for the crew, if we get calls, you gotta come in, because that would normally be a work day. And no overtime, because it's normally a work day. And the same thing with us, if we've gotta go do something. But rather than have everybody sit around with no phones ringing, nobody's on the other end of the line, calls somewhere else. But these happen once in a while, and so that's how I'm proposing to deal with that. So unless I hear objections, or we'll move in that direction.
Makes sense.
So people will be able to get a hold of us.
It sounds reasonable to me.
Okay,
Sure does.
all right. So next year will be on Wednesday, so too bad, everybody's got to work then. But anyway, so then I wanted to just kind of explain, it's come up like 3 or 4 times, Rod, and how this is working. We're kind of just stepping it along, seeing how it works. And Raj is a subcontractor to Willdan. So he works project to project to project. So he signed up to do Buena Vista. He'd never worked in Duluth before. By being around and having a lot of time on his hands because everything stopped, he started working with our crew because I remember he sat in a meeting like in January and we told him, you know, we've got this new skid steer. We've got the enthusiastic crew, but we don't have somebody to train them. And he hit me up after the meetings if I could train him. And so I threw him some work and we've just taken it step by step. So the word is that and Raj is out there. So where we're at is 3 or 4 years ago, we decided to like start numbering the drains, putting them on a map, then putting them on GPS so we could keep track of these because they are our property. And so we had the crews at the time go out with their pencil and the paper map, kind of plot them. Some they took pictures of, some they didn't. Anyway, then we got it all up on GPS and they're numbered and it's going in exactly the right direction, but we're not sure that there has been an evaluation. Like we do see a bad pipe, we know it's a bad pipe. That's easy. But then what's the next step? So Raj can identify the pipes and their condition. So we've had him out with TJ and we're finding, you know, drains that don't exist and things because the inspection job 3 or 4 years ago was not that thorough. And so we're now doing a thorough, where they're photographed and evaluated so that we know in about three months or so what we've really got. And so that's an ongoing project and will continue to go on because we're waiting to see which pipes they're going to be doing off this bid list. So it could be that 7 pipes are awarded to the contractor, we take 3, something like that. But for the time being, we're documenting the condition of all of our drains and putting them onto the GPS forever so that, you know, if you want to know what that drain looks like, you can just go on our GIS and there's pictures of it. So anyway, that's kind of what we're doing with Rock. And in addition, I've asked him to train our crew. If we get the dump truck, we've got the skid steer, maybe we get a roller, for them to be able to do this asphalt patch work, the complaint type, like people who call and said, we had one the other day, and they gave me a picture of it. So somebody calls and says, there's a pothole on X Street. And then the next day he calls back and says, well, they just put cold mix, so we must know a little bit about asphalt. And that's not gonna last. So then they tell me about it. You know, it's not gonna last, but he's like, you just kind of wasted your cold mix. So then I got a picture and asked the crew to give me a picture. And the citizens left. It's not gonna last. Okay, but it's gonna cost 10 grand to bring out a paving company to cut that little section out. Those are the kind of projects we need to be able to do in-house. So it's kind of the citizen model, you know, when they call right in the middle of the lane or something like that, you need to be able to get in there. We'll still do the cold patch. But then like, you know, every 2 weeks or something, these guys can go around and hit those and make it permanent so that, you know, it's not a pothole again in 3 weeks. So that's kind of just where we're going with this. And then we're thinking to just make this just, you know, we're happy here. So I said to Raj, plan to work with us till the holidays, but 6 months. And let's see, you know, how much headway we can make. And so anyway, that's the plan. And then after that, Raj can go back to Wildan or, you know, whatever. We'll see. We'll just see where this goes. So anyway, that's
Given the fixed budget that we're on, it's important that we spend that money very
Wise.
carefully and wisely. And it certainly seems to be proving out to have our own equipment and people here that can use it. And we not only get it done more cheaply, it's virtually instant.
Right, quickly, yeah, efficient. So I am going to, every year CSD has a general manager meeting. So I'm leaving for that Friday. So I go, it's always the last. It's interesting, it's always the last week of the fiscal year. So everybody's got their budgets done and their audits going and all that. So I'll be doing that. And then I'm going with Rex from Wildan to the Esri conference in San Diego, the middle of next month. And that's kind of a payback because they comped it last year for me. And so I'm gonna do it one more time, but it is very interesting. Rex, who works with Wildan and put our whole GPS thing together. I mean, he loves this thing. Me, I'm way out in orbit. I don't really understand, but it's interesting to see what they can do with this mapping thing and just the maps. They have a whole room where people display their maps. And it's fascinating. People like maps, you know, I never really thought about it, but I went into the room thinking I'm gonna look at this for 10 minutes and I was there 3 hours. And so anyway, it kind of, it's what really, I don't know how I even got into this Esri, that's the satellites. This whole idea of GPS and this, but one thing that's kind of on my mind is I think we might be able to sell this eventually to small agencies if we just keep refining it and refining it and refining it, because we're paying Rex. We've paid Rex to design this over the years. Now, he's not a high dollar guy. I mean, he doesn't really show up too much on our financials because we've done it just a little bit at a time. But yeah, this is worldwide. There's people from all over the world here. So I just follow him around and then I get bored and I go call the office, get back in reality. So I'm gonna do it one more time because I thought that would be kind of tacky. Oh, I'm too busy. So I don't think I'm gonna go the following year, but anyway. Also, I just wanted, since I've got everybody here, you all know that I kind of had a personal tragedy and it was the first for me. And I just want to say I really appreciate all the support from the staff, the board. And one thing you don't know, you sent flowers. And I have to say, I don't know who ordered these. It was really you, the board, of course. Okay. They were so beautiful, so gorgeous. There's only one problem, and I'm gonna end this on a light note. Every one of my family members wanted to know if we had any employment applications of this police place, and 2 of them even said, "We want your job. These people are classic. Who are they?" So anyway, I just want to say thank you so much. I really appreciate all the comments, coaching me through. I know we all have to go through this as a circle of life or whatever. For me, I somehow lucked out and I wasn't prepared, I guess. But anyways, I just want to say thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So on that note, that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Ward, any legal matters to go through?
I don't have any legal matters, but I did think I was going to mention that just speak about end of August is a special districts conference. Always a very educational conference to go to. I've already made plans to staff our booth up there the last week of August, just before Labor Day. So it's in Monterey this year.
Too cold up there these days.
Well, last week of August is kind of big. Still have the ocean breeze, but better than Palm Desert, where they had about
120.
it was very hot.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
No.
All right, then we're adjourned.
Good.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't short.